They said civilians shouldn't be this close to the red zone. They were right most. Didn't come back, but she was already there standing, in the open as bullets cracked the air, wrapped in a dusty tan. Scarf holding nothing but a field radio and a small black bag. Sergeant Cole Reyes spotted her through the scope pinned. Down behind an overturned truck, she wasn't panicking, she wasn't hiding either, just watching, waiting like she'd seen worse. Reyes called it in civvy at the blast site. Still alive. Permission to extract. Command responded, negative, no. Civilians authorized in that sector. That didn't make sense, but nothing had made sense since they crossed into Al-Mazrah convoy. Bravo was ambushed, 3 MRAPs, lost in seconds, 1 survivor, he. Moved in undercover, came up behind her. Weapon ready? You shouldn't be here. She didn't even flinch, just turned and looked at him. Eyes calm, like she recognized. Him from another life, I know, that's all she said, then pointed to a collapsed building, injured inside. 1 unconscious, 1 bleeding out. Reyes froze. How do you know that? I heard them, she replied, from the pattern of the radio pings. He didn't buy it, glanced at her hand, steady, not shaking, not 1 drop of fear, no vest, no insignia, no identification. Hi. Asked her name, Elise Navarro, she said, humanitarian. Support. She didn't look like support, she moved like someone. Trained moved like someone who knew exactly how far a mortar round could land and when to duck. They made their way to the building. She led the way, not him inside. She was right. 2 wounded, 1 barely breathing. She tore open a medical pack like she'd done it 1,000 times, applied a pressure bandage, tied a tourniquet with perfect tension. Reyes watched in silence. You military? He asked. She didn't answer. They held the building for hours. Enemy patrols passed close. She signaled. Silence with 2 fingers and a glance. He noticed. She used standard Navy hand. Signals. Reyes wasn't just impressed, he was suspicious later. Back at the forward operating base, the team talked about her. They started calling her Doc, not because she had a degree, but because she was sharper than half the medics on site. No one knew how she got there. No one could explain her clearance. She came and went like she had her own route through the war. One night, Reyes found her alone cleaning a sidearm, a military-grade SIG, not standard civilian issue. You said your support? He said. She looked up, said nothing. Where'd you learn to move like that? She paused. You ever spend 9 months in silence? He frowned. No. She nodded once, then got up and walked out the next day. A new mission came in. Protect a high-value target. No details, just a codename Silverhawk, top priority, eyes only. Reyes got his gear, checked the extraction. Site waited for the package to arrive when the Blackhawk touched down. She stepped off, same. Scarf, same boots, no hesitation in her stride, no fear in her eyes. Reyes stared. She didn't smile, didn't explain, just walked up to him and said, we need to talk. She knew the terrain better than the maps. Every alley they passed. She glanced up twice, first for snipers, second for signals. She walked ahead of the team without a word. No rifle, no radio headset. But somehow, no one questioned her. Reyes couldn't stop watching her. She blended into the noise of war too easily. The dirt on her uniform wasn't accidental. She wore it like armor. At one point, a young corporal tripped an early warning wire. Before anyone could react, she grabbed the wire with one hand, yanked it back, and cut it with a combat knife from her boot. Silent. Clean. You're not support, Reyes said under his breath. She looked at him sideways. Still didn't answer. Later, during a gear check, she corrected a sergeant's hand signals. He was embarrassed. She apologized, then flawlessly demonstrated the updated Navy protocol. Nobody asked how she knew that, but everyone noticed. The next night, she requested a comms check using outdated encryption, one Reyes hadn't heard since his first tour. Asked where she learned it, she just shrugged. A civilian shouldn't have known those codes. A civilian wouldn't have reacted, like she did during the last firefight. 3. Insurgents broke through the perimeter. Gunfire. Broke out near the comms tent. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She moved fast, precise. 1 shot to the leg, 1 to the chest. Dropped them before the second guard even raised his rifle. Her sidearm? Military issue. Custom grip. Definitely not civilian gear. Reyes confronted her again. This whole thing with you. It's not adding up. She tilted her head. You'll know soon enough. Tell me now." He stepped forward. For a moment, her expression hardened, like she was deciding whether he was worth the truth. Instead, she asked, "You ever hear of Operation Bronze Echo?" He froze. That mission was classified. Only Joint Intel and Tier 1 knew about it. "Thought so," she said, walking away. Her scarf fluttered in the breeze behind her. 2 hours later, command called for an emergency. Evac.Target had been compromised. Silverhawks. Cover was at risk. The team geared up. No one knew who the target was. Just coordinates.extraction in 15. They touched down just outside a bombed-out village. Dust everywhere. Heat rippling off the broken ground. Reyes stepped off. First scanned the LZ, then saw her, standing alone, not hiding, waiting. Same. Woman? Same scarf? Same calm look? But now, everything clicked. She handed him a black encrypted case. Inside, a Navy Admiral's insignia, her name engraved on a silver tag. Rear. Admiral Elise, Navarre, United States. Navy Intelligence. Rise stared at the badge, then at her, then at the loaded SIG at her side. "Your Silverhawk," she nodded. "You weren't supposed to find out like this. What the hell is going on?" She exhaled slowly. "Someone inside our own system is selling us out. Ex-SEALs, covert, deep cover. I was embedded here to trace the pipeline. Alone? Not anymore." Reyes tried to process it. He looked at her like he was seeing a ghost. All this time, she'd been walking among them, listening, recording, waiting. "You trained with us," he said quietly. She looked away. "I trained before you ever enlisted." For a long moment, there was only the sound of the rotor blades overhead. Then she said, "Marsh is compromised. He's feeding coordinates to the other side." Reyes blinked. "Lieutenant Marsh?" She nodded. "Your friend. Your fire team. He's working with the rogue group. That's why Bravo got hit." Reyes felt like the ground shifted beneath him. "Are you sure?" "I don't guess," she said. "I confirm." She pulled a folded document from her vest. Satellite. Timestamps. Call logs. Transfer codes. Everything pointed to Marsh. "I need your team," she said. "We're going dark. No comms. Off books. Just you and me and whoever you trust." Reyes looked at the badge in his hand, then at her. She wasn't support. She wasn't backup. She wasn't even undercover anymore. She was command, and she just declared war from the inside. Reyes didn't speak for a long time. He stared at the insignia in his hand like it was something dangerous. It was Rear Admiral Elise Navarro. He had trained under captains, served beside majors, even met a general once, but never like this. Never in the middle of a hostile zone, surrounded by betrayal, holding a truth that could blow the mission wide open. Navarro watched him carefully. Not with fear, with calculation. She was waiting to see if he would crack. He didn't. Instead, he looked up and said, "Tell me everything." They moved to the abandoned mill outside the village. It was quiet there. Too quiet. She opened a metal briefcase. Inside were photos, maps, redacted reports, all stamped, classified in thick, angry letters. "The rogue group calls themselves Glaive Team," she said. "They're ex-Navy. Black operations. Went silent after Kabul. We thought they were dead." "They're not?" Reyes asked. "They're selling weapons to insurgents," she said. "Drones, missile parts. Some of it American. Some of it stolen Russian stock." Reyes leaned forward. "Why would Marsh be involved?" She turned over a photo. It was from 2 years ago, a blurry image. Marsh shaking hands with a man Reyes didn't recognize, a known arms broker. Glaive paid Marsh to feed them convoy routes. Navarro continued. "That's how they hit Bravo. They knew the path. They timed it perfectly." Reyes clenched his jaw. "They killed 10 of our people. Not just ours," she added. "NGO workers, civilians, intel agents. Anyone in the way." She pointed to a set of coordinates. "Next deal is happening in 72 hours. Out in the sand wastes. Old Soviet comms post. Off-grid. No satellites. No support. Who else knows?" "Just you," she said. "And now, who you decide to trust. Reyes sat back. This wasn't war anymore. This was something else. Something colder. I'll need 2 men, he said. Maybe 3. People who won't blink if we go black. You'll get them, she said. I'm not asking you to follow orders. I'm asking you to finish this with me. He looked at her. The scarf was gone now. Her eyes weren't soft anymore. They were sharp, focused, command eyes. I'm in, he said. By nightfall, they moved, off the grid. No radio, no tracker, just paper maps, hand signals, and old-school tactics. Reyes brought 2 others, Corporal Harlan, sharpshooter, loyal and specialist. Nima radio tech with a quiet temper. Navarro briefed them quickly. Minimal details, maximum threat. No uniforms, she said. No insignias. If we get caught, we don't exist. The next day, they hit the trail, 10 miles on foot through enemy terrain. They passed an abandoned outpost where Navarro found a discarded ammo crate. She knelt beside it and whispered, "This crate's ours. NATO issue. But this serial code's been scrubbed." "Which means what?" Nima asked. "It means someone inside our supply chain is cleaning the evidence." Every step made the mission darker, every mile more personal. That night they camped in the ruins of an old checkpoint. No fire. No lights, just silence. Reyes sat beside Navarro. "Why you?" he asked. "Why send you in alone?" She stared at the stars before answering. "Because I trained with them." "With Glaive?" She nodded. "They were mine. I helped form that unit before they went dark. We served together in Mosul. I taught them everything." Reyes felt his stomach twist. "So when they turned, they knew how to cover it," she said quietly. "But I know how to find them. That changed everything. She wasn't just tracking them. She was facing ghosts she helped create." "You know what happens if this fails?" Reyes asked. She nodded. "Another convoy dies. Another base hit. Another medal ceremony for a war we're not even winning." The next morning, they reached the Soviet comms post. It looked dead, but Navarro saw the signs, fresh tire tracks, a satellite dish angled just a few degrees off. Cigarette still burning in a can. "They're here," she whispered. "Arm up, quiet." They moved in, 4 against the unknown. Reyes had one thought. In his head, she's not a civilian. She's not even just an Admiral. She's a weapon, and someone's about to find out how sharp she still is. The air inside the old Soviet comms post was thick, with dust and silence. Every footstep echoed like a warning. Reyes moved first. Rifle raised, Nima followed, scanning signals on a portable jammer. Harlan covered the rear. Navarro didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her eyes moved across every doorway, every shadow, every spot where someone could wait with a finger on a trigger. They cleared the first corridor. Empty. But the scent of diesel was fresh. Too fresh. She pointed to the floor. Tracks, boot prints. 5, maybe 6 men. Heavy gear, recent movement. "This place wasn't abandoned. It was occupied," Nima whispered. "I've got chatter. Scrambled. Too clean for locals." Navarro narrowed her eyes. "Encrypted military bands." "That's them." Reyes signaled to split formation. They moved down 2 separate halls, silent as smoke. The further they went, the more Navarro remembered. This was where her unit used to train. Cold War relics, dead walls filled with secrets. She stopped in front of a rusted door, stared at it. Reyes turned. "What is it?" "This was the ops room," she said quietly, "where we used to run drills." She opened the door. Inside, faded maps still hung on the walls, but now they were covered in new marks. Red X's, circled targets, movement lines. A black marker outlined something in bold letters. Fob Ridge, Aero 430. Reyes stared at the map. "That's our forward base. They're planning another hit," Navarro said. "Tomorrow morning." A voice crackled behind them. "You always were good at reading a battlefield." They turned. 3 men stood in the doorway, all armed. One of them stepped forward, smirking, tall, built like a tank, Marsh. Reyes raised his weapon instantly. "Drop it," Marsh said, aiming straight at Navarro. "Both of you." She didn't blink. "I trained you better than this." "Marsh, you trained us to survive," he replied, "and now you're here playing hero? For what? The same system that cuts soldiers loose when they're no longer useful?" Reyes didn't move. He was waiting for the angle. "One misstep. One twitch. You sold out your own," Navarro said coldly. "You killed Americans." "No," Marsh said, stepping closer. "I adapted. You didn't. You still think medals and rules mean something out here?" Reyes fired first, missed by inches. Chaos erupted. The hall exploded with sound. Harlan and Nema kicked in from the side corridor, laying suppressive fire. One of Marsh's men dropped. The other fled deeper into the compound. Marsh slammed Reyes into the wall, gun clattering away. Navarro moved like lightning. She tackled Marsh hard, both falling to the ground. She grabbed for his weapon, but he elbowed her hard across the jaw. Blood ran from her nose. She didn't stop. She slammed her boot into his ribs, rolled over and pulled the spare pistol from her ankle holster. Marsh froze, breathing hard. He looked at her. "You're not going to shoot me," he said. "Not after everything we did together." She stared down the barrel, her hand steady. Reyes reached her side. "You okay?" She didn't answer. She looked into Marsh's eyes. "You trained under me," she said quietly. "You knew better. You just didn't care." He smiled. "You don't get it. We were never heroes. Just weapons, disposable." She pulled the trigger. One shot. Straight through the shoulder. Marsh dropped, screaming, bleeding, alive, barely. "You were going to face what you did," she said. "No more running." Reyes handcuffed him while Nema retrieved the encrypted files from a back. Room, schematics, schedules, names, everything they needed. The silence after the firefight was deafening. Harlan secured the perimeter. Reyes stood beside Navarro. "You didn't kill him." "I wanted to," she admitted, "but he'll talk, and people need to hear it from him." Reyes nodded. "You good?" She wiped the blood from her face, looked out the broken window at the dark desert beyond. "No," she said, "but I'm not done." They began the long walk out before dawn, dragging the past behind them, carrying the truth with them, and Reyes finally understood. She wasn't just the mission, she was the reckoning. They marched through the desert before the sun broke the horizon. Marsh limped between Reyes and Harlan, his wrists tied, shoulders still bleeding. Navarro walked ahead, focused, silent, the weight of everything pressing down. But she didn't show it. Reyes watched her carefully. The blood on her collar had dried. Her eyes didn't flinch anymore. This wasn't the same woman he met behind a broken truck in Al-Mazrah. This was the Admiral, now, and everyone knew it. Nema tapped her. "Radio, signal coming in. Secure frequency. Call sign, high wind." Navarro took the receiver. "This is Silverhawk." A pause. Then a cold voice answered. "Admiral Navarro, you've been exposed." Her grip tightened on the radio. "Confirmed. Target Marsh is in custody. Glaive's operation is compromised." Another pause. "We have reason to believe this breach goes higher." "How high?" Navarro asked. "Pentagon-level encryption was traced to the same server used by Marsh's contact." Reyes looked at her. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said it. Plainly, "It means someone inside our own command is protecting Glaive." The team went. "Quiet," Harlan cursed under his breath. Nema stopped. "Walking. Are you saying this isn't over?" Navarro looked at Marsh, then back at her team. "I'm saying we haven't even started." By noon, they reached the edge of the evac zone, a small fob hidden in a valley, between two ridges. Dusty tents, one communication, tower, two helipads. Reyes signaled for a medevac, but Navarro pulled him aside. "I need you to do something. Anything. I need you to take Marsh back to base. Personally, don't let anyone near him. You're not coming?" She shook her head. "I've got a lead. One of the buyers from the Glaive operation. He's still in country." "That's a CIA job." "No," she said. "It's my mess. I clean it." He stared at her. You're going alone? She looked toward the horizon. No. I'll take Nima. I need eyes on the ground, not red tape. Reyes wasn't happy, but he nodded. You better come back. Navarro gave him a faint smile. You think I came this far to vanish? They split an hour later. Reyes and Harlan loaded Marsh into the Black Hawk. Navarro and Nima took an unmarked jeep and disappeared into the desert. Inside the chopper, Marsh leaned toward Reyes. You don't know what you're part of. Reyes didn't look at him. Shut up. They'll bury you for this, Marsh said. You think she's a hero? She's better than you ever were. Marsh laughed. You really think she's clean? That made Reyes turn. You want to say something? Say it now. Marsh smiled. You're following a ghost. She's the only reason you're still breathing. No, Marsh whispered. She's the reason I started this. The rest of the ride was silent. Back in the desert, Navarro drove fast. She didn't speak much. Nima watched her carefully. Why do you keep doing this? She asked. This mission, this war, these lies. Navarro didn't answer for a long time. Then she said, because if I don't, no one will. They reached the abandoned compound just after sunset. Intel showed the buyer would be there. Navarro crouched behind a ridge, scanning the windows. Movement. One man. 2 guards. She loaded her sidearm. Nima looked nervous. This is risky. I know. Then why do it? Navarro looked at her. Because some ghosts need to be faced head-on. They moved. Fast. Quiet. Focused. 2 takedowns at the rear door. 1 silenced shot. 1 blade. Inside. The buyer didn't even have time to stand. Navarro shoved him into the wall. Who gave you access to glaive inventory? I don't know his name. She pressed the barrel against his throat. I do this without a badge. No paperwork. You understand? He nodded. Told me to use Marsh. Said he'd provide clearance. Who? I swear I don't know. All I got was a code name. Navarro's voice dropped. What code name? The man swallowed hard. Atlas. She froze. That name wasn't from the field. It was from Washington, a classified code name. Buried in Joint Command files. Atlas meant top level. Clearance. Possibly a general. Maybe. Higher. Nima's voice cracked. Admiral, this goes all the way up. Navarro stepped back. She looked at the man. Then looked at the floor. Wasn't just a rogue unit anymore. It was a cancer. A hidden network that reached deeper than she thought. She turned to, Nima, pack everything. We're getting out. Where to? Back to base. And then? Navarro locked eyes with her. Then we bring down Atlas. The drive back was silent. Navarro kept one hand on the wheel and the other near her weapon. Nima stared out the window, the desert wind slicing across her face. Behind them, the compound faded into nothing. Ahead, uncertainty. But one name burned in Navarro's mind like a brand. Atlas. She'd seen that code name once, a long time ago in a black folder that vanished 24 hours later. She didn't speak until they passed the halfway point. If Atlas is who I think it is, we're going to need more than just truth. Nima glanced at her. You think it's someone in Joint Command? Navarro didn't answer directly. All I know is Atlas had access to the Navy's drone deployment schedule before Kabul fell. You think they gave it away? I think they sold it. By the time they reached the edge of the base, Navarro's thoughts were already 10 steps ahead. Back at HQ, Reyes waited near the debriefing tent. When he saw her step out of the jeep, he didn't smile. He just said one word. Marsh talked. Navarro straightened. What did he give you? Partial list of buyers, 2 safe house locations, and a name. She tensed. Say it. General Hal Whitaker. Her stomach dropped. Whitaker wasn't just Joint Command. He was her mentor. The man who signed her first promotion. The man who said, you don't need to prove anything to anyone except yourself. The day she made lieutenant. That can't be, she said quietly. I'm just telling you what Marsh said. Reyes paused. There's more, she looked up. The Pentagon wants you pulled. Navarro froze. On what grounds? Compromised judgment. They're reassigning the investigation. Reassigning to who? Reyes hesitated, then said it. Task Force. Atlas, her blood ran. Cold. That's not a coincidence. No. Navarro stepped back. This wasn't just about being shut down. It was a full sweep, a cover-up. She turned to Nima and, Reyes, we don't go through channels anymore. From now on, this is our op. Silent, separate, unofficial. You're sure? Nima asked. Navarro nodded. If Whitaker is Atlas, then everything we've uncovered is already compromised. Reyes clenched his jaw. So what do? We hit the safe house, Navarro said. Tonight. It was located in the outskirts of Kandahar, an old diplomatic complex, abandoned since 2006 high. Walls, multiple entry points, no cameras. Perfect for off-the-books. Meetings. They went in under nightfall. No lights, no backup. Reyes took point. Nima looped surveillance with a portable jammer. Navarro moved like she'd trained for this exact moment her entire life, because maybe she had, inside. The place was cold, empty, dust-covered, but in the back room, hidden behind a false wall, they found it. A secure terminal, connected to satellite uplink. Reyes powered it on. Nima tapped the keys, encrypted logs. Code exchanges, coordinates, payment trails. Then, an audio file. Navarro leaned in. A voice played, crisp, calm, familiar. General Whitaker. I want Glaive fully operational by quarter's end. No more leaks. Silverhawk is a threat. If she surfaces again, terminate her. No questions. Reyes stepped back. That's him. Navarro closed her eyes. Everything inside her wanted to believe it was fake, a deep fake, a planted file. But it wasn't. She recognized the tone, the clipped cadence. It was real. It's not just him, Nima said. Scrolling faster. There's routing numbers from foreign banks. Accounts tied to contractors we worked with last year. Navarro took it all in. This wasn't corruption. It was a shadow army, built from within, funded by betrayal. Download everything, she said. Then, wipe the drive. They didn't speak as the data. Transferred outside. The wind howled. Sand blew against the broken glass. Finally, the bar hit 100%. Nima yanked the drive. Then she pulled a small device from her jacket. EMP pulse ready. Do it, Navarro ordered. She pressed the trigger. A soft pop. The terminal sparked. Died. Everything gone. Navarro looked at her team. We're going home. And then? Reyes asked. She slid the flash drive into a pouch across her chest. Then we burned the whole damn tree. They drove back under cover of darkness. No headlights, no conversation. Just the sound of the engine and the weight of betrayal. Between them. Navarro didn't sleep that night. She stood outside the tent, watching the stars, remembering how Whitaker used to say, integrity's the only thing they can't take from you. He was wrong. They didn't take hers, but he lost his. And now, she was going to take everything back. They moved at midnight. No lights, no radios. Only the slow breath of engines and the whisper of boots on sand. Navarro sat in the front of the Jeep, her hand on the pouch over her heart where the drive lay, Nima beside her, face lit by the soft glow of a tablet. Reyes and Harlan rode in the back with Marsh between them. Cuffed and mute, they were going to bait Atlas, give them. Marsh, let the rot surface. Then, pull the camera tight and show the world where the rot began. The plan was ugly in its simplicity. Leak a transfer window, make. It looked like Marsh was being moved to Kandahar for temporary custody. Task. Force Atlas would smell blood and move to intercept. They'd show up, all rank and logos and armored trucks, expecting to grab Marsh clean. Instead, Navarro would have cameras, witnesses, interception points, and the full file of Whitaker's voice. They parked 3 kilometers away from the rendezvous. Nima planted jammers to blind common frequencies. Harlan and Reyes dug. Navarro walked to the ridge and watched. The empty road under the moon. When the first convoy appeared, Navarro felt her chest tighten. Black SUVs, 3. Heavy, no lights, just shapes cutting through the dark. They stopped at the marker. 2 men stepped out, 1 walked with the stride of rank. That was their first mistake. Marsh was pushed forward, handcuffed, head down. Whitaker's envoy watched closely. Then a voice over a secure channel. Ordered a full sweep. Task Force Atlas. Navarro saw the signal in the corner of Nima's tablet. They were in the trap. Closed. Navarro moved like water. She didn't. Shout. She didn't fire. She walked out from behind the ridge with her hands up, her badge visible. Her hair pulled back in regimented discipline. The convoy froze. "Admiral Navarro," a man said, surprised. Whitaker stepped from the lead vehicle, dressed in a field coat, sunglasses despite the dark, hands clean. He looked older than she remembered. He also looked surprised. "General Whitaker," Navarro said. Voice steady. "You're here." Whitaker smiled thinly. "You don't belong on this road, Admiral." "They belong to war crimes," she said. In one movement, Nima turned on a projector, a simple rig rigged to run off a quiet battery. It cast Whitaker's voice onto a nearby rock. The recording ran. "No more leaks," his calm voice said. "Terminate her." No questions. There was no theatrics in the words, just the cold decree of a man who'd traded blood for power. Whitaker's face went white. Atlas men reached for their weapons. Reyes stepped forward. "Hand on marsh to keep him from lunging. You listen to that?" Reyes said. "Is this how a hero sounds?" Whitaker's jaw tightened. "Where did you get that?" he asked. "You don't have authorization to run an off-site inquiry." "I have authorization to stop traitors," Navarro replied. "And I have evidence." She lifted a small transmitter and keyed it. Nima had routed the feed through multiple satellite mirrors and encrypted channels until it found open ears, embassies, inspector generals, a trusted journalist contact in Berlin who still owed a favor. The recording was no longer hers. It was in the air. It was on other people's servers. Now it was out. Whitaker made a move toward his radio. A younger officer in his team, nervous, shaky, hesitated. That pause was all Navarro needed. She yelled, "Drop it!" Harlan and Reyes surged. Two Atlas men went down with clean, non-lethal hits. A third reached for a pistol. Nima fired a flash round that cracked like thunder and sent him stumbling. Time slowed. Whitaker stepped between. His men in the flash of exposure. "You have no jurisdiction," he hissed. "You'll be court-martialed for this." "If they court-martial me," Navarro said, "they'll have to court-martial you, too." She walked to him, close enough to see the sweat on his lip. "Tell them why Glaive was resurrected," she said softly. "Tell them who funded it, General. Tell them why you ordered terminate." For a second, the old mentor in him flickered. Then he smoothed his face and reached with a slow, practiced hand toward his comms. Nima shot the device out of his grasp with a wraith round that singed the plastic but didn't kill him. Whitaker went down on one knee, stunned and furious. "You're making a mistake," he spat. Navarro pulled the drive from her pouch and held it up like a judge's gavel. "You sold our soldiers," she said. "You sold our missions for your contracts. You thought you were above it." The younger officer looked from Whitaker to the recording to the drive. Something broke in him. He whispered, "Sir, that's the voice." Whitaker's shoulders sagged. He looked around at the men who followed him, men who'd trusted his judgment and saw the reflection of a choice that had finally come due. By the time the first official helicopter from Joint Command arrived, Navarro had one of Whitaker's aides handcuffed, and the recording streamed to 3 secure inboxes. Whitaker stood still, his options evaporating. Marsh watched with bloodied shoulder, breathing hard but alive. Reyes and Harlan kept tight on their perimeter. Nima wiped sweat from her brow and smiled once, sharp and small. Whitaker was taken into custody by the arriving task force officers, who were now forced to answer to higher mandates. He didn't make a scene. A man who spent his life manipulating. Systems had been outplayed by one system he underestimated: the truth. Navarro felt like she had been punched and saved. At the same time, she sat down on a crate, the weight of the drive still warm against her body. "You did it," Reyes said, collapsing beside her. She looked at him and let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "We did it," she corrected. Because even when one admiral stood alone against a hidden war, She had a team that would follow her into the dark and back out again. And as the first gray of dawn cut the horizon, Navarro realized something she'd buried for years. Winning a war didn't always look like victory in a parade. Sometimes it looked like a small convoy at midnight, an old recording, and the slow public unmasking of a man who thought he was untouchable. The wind that morning smelled like metal and dust. Helicopters churned overhead, kicking up clouds as men in dark uniforms escorted Whitaker into a reinforced transport. No handcuffs, no struggle, just a quiet man, finally out of moves. Navarro stood with her arms crossed, boots buried in the sand, her face unreadable. Reyes watched her from a few steps back. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The truth was out, and the silence that followed it was louder than any explosion. Nima approached, her tablet buzzing softly in her hand. "They confirmed the transmission," she said. "The recordings are in the hands of the Oversight Committee. Berlin, London, and Canberra have already requested access." Navarro gave a small nod. "Good. Also," Nima hesitated. "They want you in Washington immediately. Closed session testimony." Navarro exhaled slowly, her eyes on the horizon. "That figures." Harlan walked up next, dragging Marsh by the chain between his wrists. The former operative looked worn now. Not just physically, he looked hollowed out from the inside. "Still want to talk?" Harlan asked him. Marsh stared at Navarro. She met his gaze. There was no hate left, no rage. Just the same cold weight that came with knowing exactly how you failed. "You should have killed me," Marsh said quietly. Navarro stepped forward. "No," she replied. "That's what men like Whitaker count on. Silencing truth with blood." Marsh didn't respond. He just looked away as Reyes led him toward a secondary. Convoy Navarro turned and started. Walking. Reyes followed. Washington's. "Going to ask questions you can't answer in public," he said. "I know. They'll want to spin it. Make it about a rogue unit, a few bad apples. Keep the names quiet." "I won't let them," Navarro said. "You sure they'll let you speak?" She stopped. Looked at him. "They don't have to let me." Later that week, the hearing room in Washington was a world away from the desert. Air-conditioned, sharp suits, polished shoes. But Navarro walked in with her uniform pressed, her medals shining under harsh lights, and her spine straight as a rifle barrel. The room quieted when she entered. She sat, spoke when asked, described the op in detail. She didn't. Embellish. Didn't flinch when asked who initiated the Glaive resurrection. She said the name clearly. General Hal Whitaker. Gasps echoed across the chamber. When asked why she acted without clearance, she replied with no hesitation, "Because people were dying, and the chain of command was compromised." A senator leaned forward. "You realize, Admiral, your actions could have destabilized high-level operations." Navarro looked him straight in the eye. "Senator, those operations were already unstable." "I just exposed the fault lines," he tried to counter. She didn't give him the room. In 1 year, Glaive operations led to the deaths of 36 soldiers, 11 aid workers, and 3 intelligence assets. All of it signed off by someone sitting at your table. Silence. Another senator asked if she believed others were involved. She answered carefully. "I believe Whitaker wasn't acting alone. But I also believe you can't fix a system by burning it to the ground. You fix it by removing the rot." They didn't interrupt her after that. When the hearing adjourned, reporters filled the streets. She walked past them without a word. No smiles. No waving. This wasn't a parade. It was a reckoning. Back at base, weeks later, Navarro stood in front of her old locker. Same scratches on the door. Same faded number. Nima walked in, holding a thick envelope. "Orders from command," she said. Handing it over, Navarro opened it. Inside, an offer, promotion. Vice Chief of Naval Operations, desk job, publicface.safe. She stared at it for a long time. Then she set it down and shook her head. "I'm not done in the field," Nima smiled. "I figured." Reyes walked in behind them, tossing her a duffel. "Ready for another mission?" Navarro caught it without flinching. "Where?" "Ukraine. A civilian aid team went dark near the border. Rumors of an ex-Glaive asset in the area. She slung the bag over her shoulder. I'll pack light. As they walked out together, the bass loudspeakers crackled with a familiar tune, taps being played for a small ceremony by the flagpole. Another name added to the wall, another reason Navarro kept going. Outside, the sky was beginning to shift, red at the edges, dark in the middle. The kind of sky soldiers knew well. Quiet before the next storm. Navarro glanced back once. The base, the flags, the medals. Then she looked forward, toward the dust, the danger. The truth still buried. She wasn't just a name on a list, not a rank or a medal. She was the one they never saw coming, and now they all knew. She was the Admiral.